All right, and we are live. Hopefully, nobody heard that last part. Uh, so, with all that, let's start with a poem, shall we? As we always do. This one is actually one that I wrote recently, so it's original, and it's from my journal book. And how does it relate to our topic of the day?
Shen original.
I will talk about who was talking in the background in a little bit. For now, let me continue. Nourished by dreams, seeds of a new day, planted the night before, sprouts forth green hope. Basked in emerging natural light. If this light is too strong, it will perish in the heat. If this light is too weak, it will perish from a lack of energy. Such a delicate balance of the elements, like between the weight of responsibility and the power of meaning, to evoke a life well lived. Too much, be crushed within stress. Too little, it die from vapid existence. Avoid. A life well lived carries many days. A day well lived carries many moments. How intense is the light at this moment? Indeed, how intense is the light at this moment? Well, we're doing a show right now. We're going to be talking about episode 221, Neanderthals and space, primarily on Neanderthals. So obviously this moment is very bright in my eyes. But what is this show and who am I?
That's my question.
The question I struggle with every day, right? So this is SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show. Hopefully you're watching us on YouTube live. And as soon as somebody else is he was done adjusting the camera. This guy, you know who he is. And he's muted. Please unmute your mic.
Shen!
I heard your silent scream, or whatever it was. Lovely. I thoroughly like your headband and your shirt.
Thank you. I like your whatever it is you're wearing. Yeah.
Is
that a new hat?
This hat, yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a hat that I found yesterday at a vintage store, somewhere in East downtown Edo, I guess they call it now, Houston.
Appears to be it appears to be vintage.
It is. It was like $10. So and it's great. But anyways, before I continue, how are you doing, Leonard? Let's start with that.
I'm doing better than I deserve. I'm glad you asked. I'm just doing fabulous. And how are you doing?
You know what?
Be truthful. Be honest.
Truthful. What? I think I'm doing pretty well. You know, like I'm not going to go into too many details, but
me either.
You are the doctor of love, but
I am today.
He is today, and I'm the speaker of stars. So yeah, I mean, I decided to read a poem original, because I've been writing more poetry. Going to these poetry open mics like 2 days ago, 1-on-1, and I've decided like why this show is supposed to be original. Why read other people's works when we can talk about things that, you know, I create, or maybe you create if you, well, most of the time you're talking anyway. Why? But
that's what I do.
That's what I do. Before we continue, let's just say you can support the show, patreon.com/SG2 on space. And thank you for our present supporters, Sam Welsh, Kyle Baker, John Grace, for your kindly monthly donations. And anyone else, even if you don't wish to support it, you can still join as a free member, by the way, on Patreon, just to get some
just subscribe or something like that, isn't it?
And of course,
I don't know how it works.
It works well. So you can go on Patreon and you can be a free member, or if you wish, and you can also obviously definitely go on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, my channel at Shen.
YouTube is my favorite.
Yep. So with all that said, let's just jump into the topic here. We've been
what did you want to talk about tonight?
Well, this particular episode is talking about Neanderthals. We have covered a wide variety of topics. I mean, last time we covered, the philosopher Plato and the allegory of the cave, which I guess, if anything, how we're relating to that, maybe Neanderthals lived in caves. I don't know. This is a different topic. So,
I mean, I don't even know. How are you going to relate Neanderthals? I thought this was a space and science show.
How are we relating Neanderthals to space? Leonard, the Doctor of Love, is wondering that. And I think what we can do, and for people who are interested, just keep watching the show. We'll go talk about Neanderthals to start with, and we will work the space in there.
We'll do the best we can. Yes, I think.
All right.
So who are Neanderthals?
I mean, the picture, you saw, like, let me see. This guy, right? Wait, where is it? This, the skull.
Oh,
like that.
This skull. Is Neanderthal. Yeah, this is Neanderthal 1. Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, Leonard, please.
Yeah, this is actually the first. I think most people have heard of the Neanderthals. So Neanderthals were a species of archaic humans that lived in Eurasia, really until up until about 31,000 years ago. Maybe they persisted in some areas a little after that, but they are our cousins, and we share a common ancestor. They are not our ancestors. Not in the conventional.
Okay. Just a note. Sorry. Please continue, Leonard. Never mind. I will stop interjecting.
No, you can interject. It's the best part of the show.
I find it funny that my webcam right now is just resting on my Bible, but
yeah,
which no doubt the Bible does not talk about Neanderthals at all. But
I don't know that that's true. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in there, and we could probably make that case. But never mind.
That'd be another show. But my point here is let's continue talking about our scientific and archaeological discoveries.
So Neanderthals are not our ancestors directly. I mean, it's almost like a plate of spaghetti, really. If the truth be known, we definitely share a common ancestor who lived around 600,000 years ago. So we've been separated as separate species for roughly 500,000 years, but we keep connecting. We're capable of interbreeding, and that's something that's only become known in the past 15 years. So modern humans, Neanderthals and modern humans interbred, and we share all but maybe a very small fraction of the genome.
You're saying that only in the last 15 years, I'm guessing through some kind of DNA.
I think we'll get into that. There was actually a Nobel Prize that was awarded in 2020. Right. I think.
Throwing out quantity there, according to studies, Neanderthals and us share 99.7% of DNA. So that's pretty. That sounds like a lot.
Well, you're always hearing that all the time, So, but what that means is it's never been really clear to me. But we seem to have emerged from a common ancestor, likely a creature called Homo heidelbergensis, or Heidelberg man, or there may have been another species that was similar, or even actually maybe a separate name for the same hominid. So there's two of them, Heidelbergensis and antecessor. So Homo heidelbergensis and Homo antecessor. Actually, you may surprise people to know that I've been studying this for a long time, and it's an interest of mine. The exact species.
You've been studying Neanderthals for a while?
I've been studying ancient archaic human ancestry of humanity for a long time. So okay. It's like a kind of a hobby of mine. So, but the exact species is still really debated, and but we think that the two species, modern humans and Neanderthal, diverged from each other to become distinct species about something more than 500,000 years ago. We continue to develop in Africa, so we're sort of the tropical version of this single line, and it appears that Neanderthals were a Arctic or cold climate adapted species. So the reasons for the divergence have to do with this early ancestor migrated out of Africa and into Europe and Asia. We became sort of geographically isolated from each other.
Sorry, I'm the disembodied voice in the background at the moment, but Leonard, do you happen to have a map showing that?
A map?
Maybe or maybe not. You do. You have a map on the wonderful reference.
I do. Yeah, you can pull that map up there, but I wasn't really going to talk about this map yet. But these are all Neanderthal sites, places where fossils or remains of Neanderthal, the Neanderthal hybrid, the Neanderthal type have been found. And you can see it spreads all across Asia, and a lot of it's, you know, in the region may be only delineated by this, and it may have extended further than this.
Right. I mean, the point is, these are the sites that have been presently discovered. No doubt, there's more. So
that's right. These are all that, and I made this map this morning. So over time, the separate populations kind of evolved distinct traits due to different environmental pressures and perhaps genetic drift.
You found all the archaeological sites, their locations, and you put the blue pins on those maps, and you made that?
I did.
Wow. All right, Leonard. That's some work right there.
So by the way, all of these countries didn't really exist then. Those are,
I mean, yeah.
This just like, for reference. This is like the shape of the continent.
Like, when was this, by the way? Like, I guess going back in time, like, when was this happening? Like Neanderthals, I guess.
Well, these extend from anywhere from 250,000 years ago. I think the site in Italy dates back that far to about 250,000 years. And up until I think the sites that are in Spain, some of the sites in Spain and some of the sites in Russia are the youngest, or the youngest, the ones that extend closest to present. So that's what we're talking about. So the first Neanderthal was identified in some limestone deposits in a place called Neander Valley in Germany.
They named that after they discovered Neanderthals there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the site was completely destroyed. It was a valley of limestone, and it was discovered by miners, and the individual, actually, here he is.
This was from the Valley of Neanders.
In that Neander Valley, yeah. And this is Neanderthal 1, and the bones were discovered or identified by the foreman of the mining operation, and taken to a school teacher, who then took him to a university. All that happened in 1856 in Germany. And so it's unmistakably, I mean, you can see this is unmistakably not a human, not a modern human cranium, and the brow ridges are almost diagnostic.
So when they initially did, when archaeologists, are these archaeologists who do this? I don't know exactly who studies these. Paleontology? No, that's dinosaurs, I think. Like, what is the study of Neanderthals? Who does that?
Paleoanthropology.
Is that the title for these people? I mean, these researchers.
I would think. I never really concerned myself with titles.
All right, these paleoanthropologists, when they first saw this, and they unearthed it was like you said, even to my eyes, this does not look like, you know, either your skull or my skull or any other modern Homo sapiens. Did they think, hey, this is how do they know this is a new species of humanoids? rather than like a
well,
deformed person. Let's just say.
well, that's what some people said, that but it became obvious. I mean, became apparent at a certain point in time.
Okay.
And then others started showing up in the record.
Okay. Yeah.
This is not the first Neanderthal that was actually collected. There was a site in Gibraltar, I believe, where bones were discovered, and also I want to say in another place in Germany. I don't remember the exact details about that, but there were some bones that were discovered prior to the 1856 Neander Valley discovery, which were later associated with this separate species, but it gradually became apparent. So. But this is I always thought that Neanderthals were like a Arctic, cold adapted version of humanity. In other words, that we are the tropical version, and as we observe among other animals. So we know there's elephants and different kinds of animals like that are tropical adapted, and then also we have mammoths and other kinds of elephants like that. And I thought it was the same phenomenon. So that as the populations become geographically separated over time, they evolve into distinct traits that make them separate. So it's really an adaptation to different environments. Neanderthals adapted to the colder climates of Europe and West Asia, developing stockier builds. So they were somewhat shorter. They had really big noses. They had big eyes.
These traits somehow help them survive better in the cold.
Well, that's what's been said, but I don't know. I'd like a falsifiable, hypothesis about that. I think it's possible they just had bigger noses. Just like some people have bigger noses.
I mean, I know yours is bigger than mine.
Yep. I'm proud of it.
Nose. No, we're talking about that.
So over generations, the genetic mutations accumulated differently in the separated populations. And maybe that's what led to distinct evolutionary paths.
So aside from their physical appearance, and obviously the genetic aspect and the geographic separation, there's also a cultural and behavior differences as well, right?
So it seems that modern humans at the time of their contact with Neanderthals, that they behaved differently. And this is a big mystery, and you can read about it a lot. People have all kinds of just so kind of explanations for how the behaviors were different. There must have been some kind of behavioral difference. It seems like Neanderthals used a tool culture that lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, with very little change from generation to generation, until they made contact.
Okay, yeah. This is in opposition. This is in contrast to Homo sapiens. You're saying, who developed our tools. I should say, our ancestors. Is this what you mean?
Well, modern humans seem to have also been stuck for a very, very long time, and only up until about 60 to 80,000 years ago did modern humans really start to break out with different kinds of tools and different kinds of strategies. And I think it's a big mystery as to what happened to our species to cause that kind of breakout. So, I mean, some people could, I mean, we've all seen 2001: Space Odyssey, so.
And if you and gals and whomever else, neither guys nor gals, whatever. If you haven't seen 2001, you said 2001: Space Odyssey, right?
I did, yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it. There you go. And then you would get
Right.
Leonard's reference.
Well, it's a surreal kind of plot, so we don't want to we don't want to spoil the plot, but the idea is maybe extraterrestrial aliens came and gave us something.
My personal beliefs in that, but we can talk about that later. How do we know, going back, since you're the doctor of love here, going back to this, how do we know that they interbred with us?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good
what
question.
was going on there?
And I never thought that it was possible. I thought that we were a separate species, just like mammoths and elephants. We have two separate species of elephants. We have separate species of camels, horses, and so forth. And they don't interbreed, or if they interbreed, it's a very problematic kind of scenario. But in 2010, there was some preliminary evidence that was being conducted at the Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary and Anthropology. And it revealed that Neanderthals.
So Max Planck was a famous physicist, but I guess
he did well. That was just the institute where this was done.
Okay.
And so it turns out that some of the bones were analyzed and studied, and it was discovered that there was intact DNA. And using the same kind of DNA analysis that's done for forensics in criminal investigations and so forth, the DNA from the Neanderthal species was amplified and then sequenced. And so we have the entire genome
of Neanderthals.
We can see that it is distinct from modern humans. So we can separate those two, and we see overlap. Okay, so there's no question that some of the Neanderthal genes that are not present in earlier modern humans are now present in the current human genome. And it's said that most people who are from Asia or from Europe have significant amounts of Neanderthal DNA. It's recently been discovered. They used to exclude the people in Africa from having any Neanderthal, but it's recently been discovered that there is indeed some Neanderthal genes in that population as well, which kind of makes sense since there's been a long time and people are, well, you know what people do when they get together. So
somehow, despite Neanderthals with their big noses or whatever else, those features, apparently Homo sapiens, our ancestors who are physically like us, found them attractive enough and was able to engage like that, I guess. And somehow, so societally, it was acceptable too for.
I think that's a provocative question. I think it's an interesting question, and so it leads to no end of speculation about how exactly it happened.
Do you know that there's like a fiction book, like the cave, and do you know what I'm talking about? The cave of the big bear.
Clan of the cave bear. Clan of the cave bear.
There you go. Clan of the
yeah.
Clan.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Clan of the Cave Bear. And I think it was turned into some movies or something too, right? So like that, that's like about I guess a Neanderthal woman, right? Who was
a little girl who was adopted by Neanderthals, right? Sorry,
the other way around. Never mind.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then she grew up and they did all kinds of fun. It's a fun movie. But anyway, so yes.
I mean that's obviously purely fictional, since nobody like who could write was back alive then.
Right. So let me tell you about this. Okay. First of all, there's no evidence of any mitochondrial there's no evidence of any Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA in the human lineage. Okay, so what's significant about that? Mitochondria are little organelles that are in every cell that have their own strip of DNA or RNA separate, and they are strictly matrilineal, meaning they only come from the mother. So the mitochondrial the mitochondrial chromosomes, DNA that are in your body are the same that was from your mother, and hers came from her mother, and her mother's mother came from, all going back to a common ancestry. So there's no evidence whatsoever that modern humans have mitochondrial DNA that comes from Neanderthals. So that means that there were no mothers. Whoever the mothers were, whoever the Neanderthal mothers were that were engaging in this interbreeding, did not survive.
Wait. So Neanderthal. Okay. So Neanderthal mother and Homo sapien father. You're saying that was not a match, apparently.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what the observation is today. Okay. And so there's various explanations for that. One is that for whatever reason, the lineage, if there were Neanderthal mothers who were giving birth to hybrid babies, those babies either didn't survive or for whatever reason that lineage just disappeared. Okay. And so there's so now it could be, we do see that in some certain separate species of animals that interbreed, that a lot of times there's difficulty with the fertility of the offspring and so forth. But evidently we have the legacy of genes from Neanderthal fathers and modern human mothers. So that's just the way it is. That's what it looks like. There also doesn't appear to be any. There's also some anomaly with respect to the Y chromosome. So we're not actually seeing any of the Neanderthal Y chromosome expressed in the modern lineage. And the Y chromosome is the chromosome that is associated with the men. So the male has a X and a Y chromosome, whereas females have a double X chromosome. So that's an interesting thing. But when I first heard about this, and it was about 2010, 2011 when I first heard about this, it just for the people
watching 10,000 years in the future, for our timeline, that's 14 years ago.
Yeah, they all know about that. Yeah.
They did. Okay.
Right. Yeah, they already know all about all of this. Okay. So the initial findings, so that was what it was led by a guy named Svante Pabo was his name.
Good job.
He's
his name.
Today he's still I think he's from Sweden, but he works in Germany.
Okay, wonderful.
And I could be wrong about that, and he hears it. They hear about it. Somebody gets mad at me. Okay, whatever. Wherever you're from, I'm sorry. So. But anyway, he works in Germany at Max Planck Institute. It's a genetic legacy. So subsequent studies of the Neanderthal DNA, that Neanderthal DNA is making up about somewhere between 1% and 4% of the genome of people of non-African descent. And it indicates that the interbreeding occurred when modern humans migrated out of Africa, and probably when our species encountered, there he is, Neanderthals.
Very happy here for winning the Nobel Prize. But go on.
When our species encountered Neanderthals in the Middle East or Central Asia, and then your observation that evidently we got together and however that happened, the modern human girls thought that the Neanderthal men were. They were attractive and were able to interbreed.
I mean, so according to the standards of back then, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and so we actually have no idea. We have no idea whatsoever how that happened. I like to think that it was like a nice romantic encounter.
Yeah, versus like when somebody forced intercourse, I guess, which would not be pleasant, but who knows. But point is, we have this evidence now. So, whatever, I just said it. So I mean, how significant is this? I mean, like, okay, so you probably have some Neanderthal genes, DNA in there, and probably so do I.
You probably have more than I do.
Oh well, okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's just.
I mean, like understanding this, like, does this genetic legacy? Does that? Am I like? Do people with these Neanderthal genes, are they different somehow? Like, how do we?
No, I don't think that there's anything significant. It may give some of us greater sensitivity. What I've read is it may give some of us greater sensitivity to things like diabetes and uh, immune response in certain respects.
Okay.
But I don't think that there's any significant difference, although these genes did survive. And although we're talking about 1 to 5% in any one person, we're not all sharing the same 1 to 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's thought that about 30% of the entire Neanderthal genome still exists and is spread out among the billions of people that live today.
I want to actually come to that, which is, you say these genes survive, so some of us as descendants carry their genes. What happened to them? Like, they're all gone, right? As far as we know.
So this is a big major mystery about what happened to them. I favor the idea that we wiped them out. I mean, I just but unfortunately, yeah.
Well, why did we wipe them out?
There's some kind of behavioral or cultural attribute about us that is different. They may have had some kind of cognitive difference, but they are extinct. And other than the genetic contribution that continues today.
So there's a lot of what do you call it? Livable region was based on that map, right? They were mostly in Europe and like Northern Asia.
I think that's approximately right. Now it turns out that in the past 15 years, there's been another species of closely related hominin that closely related to the Neanderthals that was discovered in Russia in a cave, and the cave is named after a guy named Dennis. A hermit that lived in this cave. His name was Dennis.
That does not sound very noteworthy name to name anything after.
It's a cave.
Sorry to all the Dennises out there.
There was a hermit that lived about 100 years ago in this cave, and his name was Dennis, and everybody knew him as Dennis. So it's called Dennis's Cave. Well, in the 80s and 90s, anthropologists were working in that cave, and they uncovered a lot of material of ancient hominin, archaic human remains, and also modern humans. So it seems like this cave was used intermittently back and forth between Neanderthals, modern humans, and then this other species, which has become known as Denisovan.
Wait. Okay. There's a whole species named Dennis something.
Named Denisovan. Sometimes you'll hear Denisovan, but it's named for Dennis. Okay. And you think I'm making this up.
Oh wow, I see it. This guy looks not very pleasant to look at. So okay, here, let me see if I can. Am I screen here? Let me get that up. How do we do it? Here, Denisovan. Okay, let me find a face. Where's his face? There's a face down there somewhere.
You mean you have a picture of Dennis?
I have a picture of Dennis somewhere.
I don't believe I've ever seen the picture of Dennis.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go back to this. Fine, it looks like this. All right, isn't that one or that?
No. This is the reconstruction of the ancient human. That's not Dennis. Okay,
oh, that's not Dennis.
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Dennis, and I don't know what his last name was, but he was a guy who lived in Russia.
Let's continue.
Okay. So what I wanted to point out is there's a closely related species and they're called Denisovans.
Denisovans, yeah, Denisovans.
And
right.
roughly 1 to 3% of 1 to 4% of our genome, especially among people in Asia and Polynesia, have that attribute.
So once again, this is another example of what that we wipe them out.
I don't know. There's evidence that so it may have been climate change, but climate change gets blamed for everything, right? And these people lived for 600,000 years, and went through ice ages and
how is it that like, okay, if I guess I'm clearly, well, I'm just asking dumb questions here since I don't know the field at all. But how is it that we're only recently finding these remains? I mean, they've been around forever in the ground.
Well, I think in ancient times, probably. I don't know of any literature from classical times, like with Roman or Greek or Chinese or anywhere where they talk about ancient remains, but probably they didn't see the significance of it.
Well, like they would discover, say, dinosaur bones or whatever, and think they're dragons or something.
Yeah, the ancient Greeks thought that they found bones of extinct mammoth,
right?
And they thought that was responsible for the Cyclops. They interpreted them in different ways.
But like they would, the ancient civilizations, when they discovered these alternative like humanoids, they would just think, oh wow, this is just some deformed being, I guess. And
sure, the original Neanderthal was thought to have been a Russian soldier from Napoleonic times or something like that. But
I guess it's a notion that we cannot conceive that there were other types of humanoid species back then.
It didn't occur. Yeah, it didn't occur until after Darwin, really, that we started thinking about this, and so the timeline kind of matches. But I kind of favor that it was competition with modern humans, and it's very important to recognize that up until about 40,000 years ago in Europe, the culture of the Neanderthals, is their tool making culture, did not show any sign of advancement or change until about 45 to 40,000 years ago, when they made contact with modern humans, and then you start to see some advance in the tools.
Right.
And that, to me, that's obviously a connection. Their contact with modern humans, and so that's
modern humans spurred a technological advancement.
Some technological advancement in their tools.
What kind of tools did they use? I'm just going to ask that.
Well, they used this is interesting. All right, they did not have any kind of. There's no evidence that they really had throwing. They had spears. It's thought that the spears were used in a thrusting kind of mode, that when they would hunt, they would engage the animal close up, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they would hunt big animals. I'm telling you, they hunted. There's lots of evidence that they were able to bring down elephants. I mean, mammoth. There's a site in the English Channel, one of the Channel Islands, Jersey. It's called Jersey. So there's a big site there which has stacks of mammoth bones, and that's a Neanderthal site. So they had a short spear. They seem to. There's the injury pattern. Yeah, the injury patterns of almost all Neanderthals have some broken bones or some kind of damage of that sort. So they had a rough life. I've heard that the injury pattern in the bones resembles that of rodeo clowns.
Okay. Wow.
So what does that mean?
They were trying to ride the mammoth?
Well, I don't think that they were trying to ride them, but I think they were up close, and that was the strategy that they used to.
Why didn't they just throw their spears or shoot arrows? Sorry, maybe
they didn't. Nobody had the insight to create
like a ranged
throwing
weapon.
a ranged weapon. And so that's thought to be maybe one of the advantages of our own
I can see a huge advantage when somebody can just strike you from afar versus you trying to.
So modern humans were smaller. We were smaller. We used less calories. We weren't quite as robust as the Neanderthals. Neanderthals probably had a dietary requirement for maybe 4,000 calories a day, because of their size. They weren't tall, but they were big. I mean, they were muscular. So modern humans probably had a lower calorie requirement. They probably had some kind of cognitive organizational abilities that the Neanderthals, but that's the best that I think that we know.
Did Neanderthals have family units and tribes?
They surely did, because there's some sites in Spain where you can see a whole group of Neanderthal bones that are all related, and even some clues as to how they would exchange mates, like the females would travel, or be traded.
Well, I mean, as a doctor of love, I'm just wondering, were they purely monogamous, or did they all just share with each other? You know,
I don't know what evidence there would be for that. We should talk about cannibalism.
I'm talking about love, and you want to talk about cannibalism?
Well, I mean, because it's kind of important. So the thing is, there are approximately 400 specimens of individual specimens of Neanderthals that are known, and they spread across a period of about 600,000 years, with a lot of representation tilted more toward the present day than very ancient sites. And of that amount, at least let me see, at least 13 were found in a cave, in El Cedrón cave in Spain, and then another place, I think in Eastern Europe, where the bones were had been broken open, cooked, and eaten. Right?
Can you bring that up? That picture? Oh wait, those are cave paintings. Never mind. Unless you don't want to bring it up. But that's the one you're talking about, the one in Spain, right?
Well, there's a number of sites in Spain. So there's a Gibraltar site, and so the idea, my thought about that is that okay, so this gets to what we sometime when we talk about statistics.
Okay.
So a lot of people will say, well, modern humans engage in cannibalism. But it's extremely rare. Okay.
I mean,
it's not a common practice.
I don't think I don't know any cannibals personally, unless not
telling among animals, cannibalism is almost unheard of. I mean, I've even noticed, one of the things I've noticed is vultures do not even eat other vultures when they're dead.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so I think that this gets to why they went extinct. So the theory that I have is that they were doing this thing called cannibalism, and that it was common. And the reason it was common is because if we see any evidence of cannibalism at all among 400 individuals, it means that it was very much more prevalent. And there's a thing called prion disease, which is sometimes related. Sometimes
like a sci-fi term, like virus.
No. Prion disease is a malformed protein.
Oh, okay.
That occurs, and it's
wait, hold on a second. Transmissible spongiform encephalopathy.
Yeah, otherwise known as mad cow disease.
Oh wait, yeah.
Or Kuru.
Let me see if I can find it. This thing, right? This, whatever this is. It looks like an abstract painting, but really this is showing spongiform degeneration in the cerebral cortex of a patient who died of this disease.
So the disease it's a disease called Kuru, and another variant of it is the mad cow disease that we sometimes hear about. And so prion disease is a disease that happens because you're eating, you're consuming you're consuming the nerve tissue of your own dead. You know this.
Okay.
So I surmise, and I've never really seen it. It's my own theory.
Wait a minute.
Surmise.
So, like, if you eat your own species, you're saying you have a higher likelihood of getting this disease.
That's correct. That's right. That's how it will appear spontaneously among human populations, and it takes a long time for you to develop this disease. But if you have a practice of cannibalism, then it will spread. You'll spread it to everybody who's eaten your brains. You know.
So I guess if anybody watching this show has learned nothing else, it's like don't eat your. If you don't want to get this disease, don't eat other people's brains.
Don't eat other people's brains. And you might say, well, when I eat brains, I thoroughly cook them. Okay, but that doesn't help. This prion protein will survive cooking.
I can't believe we're talking about eating brains right now. Okay.
Oh, is that a?
No, we can talk about eating brains. All right. So why?
I have to talk to the. I didn't talk to the mothership about that. They didn't give me instructions.
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
I hope you're not eating brains. But point is, why are these Neanderthals? Why are they eating brains? Why are they doing that?
They could very well be that they were hungry, right? So,
like, okay, you're hungry to the point that you have nothing else to eat. So, like, when a member of your tribe, I guess, dies, you just decide
among modern people who practice cannibalism, like these people in Southeast Polynesian islands. I can't remember Philippines or Indonesia, and I'm probably insulting people.
Okay.
But anyway, wherever the Kuru, maybe it was Borneo.
If you're from Southeast Asia or Pacific Islands, we're not saying you eat brains. We're talking.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there was a tribe. There is a tribe of people that had a cultural practice of consuming the brains and nerve tissue of their dead ancestor, of their dead relatives, right? And it was a sacrament. It was like a religious thing. It wasn't really anything that they really wanted to do. You know, it was kind of like a thing that it was not like a pleasurable thing for them. It was like a religious duty, right? And so, but it turns out
duty to eat your ancestors' brains,
to eat your relatives, your dead relatives' brains, right?
Okay,
so
got it.
All right. So, and like I said, it's very, very rare, right? And so, so
I'm gonna post a comment here. If anyone eats brains, please let me know.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, don't eat brains.
But just
right. And it doesn't help if you cook them, okay? Because the prion protein survives cooking.
Okay. All this
believe that.
This is speculation, though, right? What you're saying, like we're not
speculation. This is a theory. This is my theory that among Neanderthals, because the Bayesian priors on this are that there was multiple incidents of cannibalism observed among this population. The population that we have been able to sample is only 400 individuals for a 600,000 year period. That means that the probability is high that cannibalism was pervasive among Neanderthals. And that because there's a thing called prion disease, sooner or later someone is going to have a malformed prion that will develop spontaneously.
If you so let's just say I eat Leonard's brain. Or forget it. Let me not use me as example. Let's just say this since I'm not going to eat anyone's brains. Let's just say this Neanderthal eats someone else's brain, and that person has the prion disease. This Neanderthal also gets the prion disease, correct?
Right. That's how it's transmitted.
So
exactly.
In this case, like very quickly, if cannibalism is pervasive, then everybody in that tribe will quickly like get that disease.
That was what the observation is among that tribe in Borneo or wherever that was. And the disease is called Kuru, Kuru. And it's also the observation that we saw with the mad cow disease, which was a bovine.
the mad cow disease is because we're feeding cows, right?
Yeah, stop doing that. Don't
Yeah.
do that. We don't do that in the United States, and it was not a problem in the United States. It was a
for anybody out there, do not feed your cows if you have a cow.
Right.
So, okay. Oh wow, this looks horrible. Sorry.
Cow will thank you.
No, not the cow. The kuru, the disease. Here, let me see. This.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a wasting degenerative brain disease, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and you were saying they do this funeral cannibalism, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So a theory, and I don't insist upon it, but it is a theory that's subject to peer review and Karl Popper falsification.
Yes,
okay?
And people who missed that episode, go back, I think, 2 episodes to see the Karl.
Yeah, it's one of our best shows, if you ask me. Yeah. But so
sorry, go on.
But so that's a possibility that they were suffering from that because they developed the cultural attribute of eating their own kind, right? And it does seem like there was a lot of violence in their society because there's evidence, like even among just 400, we just have 400 crime scenes, and we see head wounds and broken bones and heel fractures.
Societally, I find it interesting that like cannibalism was widely accepted and
it seems that way. I proposed that was accepted, or it was a thing that they did.
Do we know much about their religious practices, if any?
We know that there is evidence that they buried their dead. So which means that when Uncle Jake died after you're done eating him, no, there is evidence that they did bury their dead, and some thought about missing this person, and I don't have any doubt that that's the case. I think that they were very much more modern in their ideas and thoughts about our
burying your dead is definitely a significance of something that's like.
Let me see what else. It's also very obvious that original Neanderthal. He didn't. His arm was he was missing an arm, and all of I think his teeth were missing, and so somebody was chewing his food for him, and he seems to have, he seems to have suffered a blow on the left side of his head, and it caused him to be paralyzed on the right side.
By the way, just like Homo sapiens, I'm assuming the Neanderthals also fought with each other.
So there seems to be some evidence of that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The LC drone cave has 13 individuals that have all the bones have been broken and put down. They seem to have been hidden inside this cave in very strange circumstances because the place where they were found is so deep that there's no way that the other Neanderthals would have carried them there. They seem to have dropped them down into a hole. Mm-hmm. Dropped the bones after they had broken the bones, taken out the marrow, split them, and they dropped them down into a hole. And so there was a whole family of related Neanderthal individuals in this deep cave, and it's called the LC drone.
By the way, you shared with me some of the art, I guess, that they also made.
So let's talk about that also. That's another thing. It does appear.
Right. I mean, you make art, Leonard. So do I. So apparently, these ancient Neanderthals did too.
Okay, so again, we want to be.
Here, let me see.
You can share the.
Good.
Do I need to share? Oh, you got it. Yeah,
I got it.
So this is something that was discovered in a cave in Gibraltar, and I forgot the name of the cave. Gorham. It's called. Okay, Gorham Cave, and I don't know who Gorham or what Gorham is, but it's a famous Neanderthal site in Gibraltar. Gibraltar seems to be one of the last redoubts of where the Neanderthals lived, and at the time that they lived there during the Ice Age, it was a really nice place. The ocean had receded, and it exposed a wide plain. all around Gibraltar, and the Neanderthals occupied a lot of caves that are at the base of Gibraltar in Europe, kind of like condos, like natural condos. And so there's a lot of material that came out of them. Somebody dug down and they found a place where this was exposed. And this is taken to be some purposeful design that was scratched into the stone. What
does it mean?
Okay, well, so I think it means somebody was cutting something and they used this as a platform to cut things in there, and so it's like these are just random scratches. But that's my opinion. Other people think that there's something profound, like it's a hashtag, or something. So I'm not that impressed with this. Okay, I'm also not.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I don't think there's any question that this is a mark that was made by Neanderthals because of the context where it came out of, but I don't see it as I don't necessarily see anything that's that interesting.
I mean, like what was I going to say? It's a bunch of scratch marks on a cave wall, and some people believe
it's actually on a flat surface. It's a horizontal flat surface.
The yellow things up there, what is that?
I think that's just dirt.
That's just dirt. Okay. Yes. So did we know if it originally had any kind of color?
No, I don't know that we know that. Okay. Now there are other sites in Spain. There are some other sites in Spain where it is said that Neanderthals painted on the walls.
Right.
Okay. And so what I want to say about that is that the dating, I've examined those. I don't have pictures of those, but I've looked at the papers that have that are proposing this, and I'm not a pushover the way most people are. So what they're saying is that I want to push back, as Karl Popper would say. I want to provide a falsifiable conjecture.
What is it?
Well, that the dating method that they used is involves looking at deposits of water deposited salts that are on the surface of the paintings, and they scraped that off, and they looked for trace concentrations of uranium and thorium. And so what the inference is that anything that's on the surface that was deposited on the surface had to have been after that. And so they used that dating method to place these at 60,000 years. So that these were made, these paintings, in not this one, but the ones that I'm trying to describe.
Let me find it. The paintings that you're trying to describe, where was those found?
They were also in Spain. There's one called Ardales Cave.
Ardales.
Cuervo de les Cuerva, not Cuervo.
I think I Cueva
Aviones in Southeast.
Okay, let's see. Tell me of this.
Los Aviones.
Is it? Yeah. Cueva de Ardales?
I think this is the paper. Yeah.
Neanderthals entered this cave in the middle Paleolithic over 65,000 years ago and left traces of symbolic practices on the cave walls. Thereafter, the cave was repeatedly visited by Homo sapiens all the way to the late Neolithic / Chalcolithic period.
Right. So we know that modern humans lived in this cave, and so the inference is that the paintings were done 65,000 years ago based upon this dating technique. Okay. So there's two things that I can push back on, and that is that I'm not so sure about this dating method. Okay. But it's also we do know modern humans are doing art all over the place. Every place you find modern humans, they're doing art. So
yep.
If they do date back that far, then I'm gonna propose that this is evidence that modern humans were inhabiting the Iberian Peninsula just earlier than anyone has accepted. So that's the first thing that occurs to me. But these authors, they made another. They interpreted it differently. So,
I guess that's what the cave looked like.
Yeah. So I'm not. It's not what I want to believe. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I want to be clear. Yeah, I want to be clear about this. This is not what I want to believe. I want to believe that my guys, the Neanderthals, were painting on the walls. Okay, but
yeah, okay.
I'm offering falsifiable propositions or hypotheses to survive the assertion that Neanderthals did this, and that's what's missing from this paper, and a couple of other papers that I looked at.
2018 paper attributing the red ochre pigment found in the stalagmitic dome of Cueva de Ardeles to our extinct, quote unquote, cousin species. Dating suggested the art was at least 64,800 years old, made at a time when modern humans did not inhabit the continent. But that's assuming the dating method is correct.
Yeah. So I don't want to. I'm not trying to throw water on it. I just am offering falsifiable, postulates, falsifiable hypothesis. See? So
we seem to. I mean, this looks pretty. If whomever painted it, I mean, this is for sure painted by some kind of humanoid, right? So, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's what they're saying.
I'll stipulate to that.
Well,
anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say about Neanderthals. I didn't get to talk about birch tar.
What?
But birch tar.
What's birch tar?
Birch tar was a kind of glue that the Neanderthals created, and it's pretty impressive.
They made glue.
They made synthetic glue from birch bark. And so what they do is they collected birch bark. It has this property that it's a sticky substance that when you heat it, it's very sticky, but then it cools and it's very hard. It's a very, very good kind of glue. And they used it. We know that they used it to stick their stone spear points onto wooden spears, very few of which the wooden spears aren't preserved, but the birch tar did persist, including a thumbprint, right? And also it looks like they chewed it. So because they found some pieces that had saliva from Neanderthals in it.
Birch
tar. So what they did was they apparently there was like a controlled burning process where they needed to do it in anaerobic. They had in low oxygen content and that sort of thing. So
that is they were chemists, I guess, or.
Well, I don't know about that. It's just that
really. They made
some people think that they did something very, very elaborate, but in recent years, people think that there's simpler methods that could be used to make the birch tar. I've always wanted to try it, okay, but I don't have access to birch trees, and I'm really not up for tearing their bark off either. So, but
you want to go make birch tar? Let me know when.
Yeah. So anyway, it shows it's like well, think about it. I mean, you know how to make this glue, and you you have some cognitive.
Right.
You're doing something good.
I mean, they apparently had burial rites. They had Neanderthals made art supposedly.
Seems like it.
They made these materials. They had families or some kind of social organization. So what's up with they're really not like our intellectual inferiors, are they? At least at that time.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. Their brains were bigger than ours.
Right. I mean,
and people say slightly bigger. No, it was about 12% bigger.
That's
their brains were on average 12. They had bigger eyes. Their eyes were 10% bigger.
So their vision was better.
Interesting. Probably their vision was better, yeah.
So they had bigger brains for some other things too, I suppose. I mean, I don't know.
Once they came in contact with modern humans, their technology started to improve.
So interesting.
It's just that they didn't make it. Either they couldn't compete, or maybe we just maybe they just dwindled away because they became indistinguishable. They just, I kind of like the idea that they're still with us, with the DNA and everything. And also the interbreeding, I like that. I would like that to be like,
cross species interbreeding,
cross species date night. Yeah.
The cross species date night. I mean,
yeah.
If we presume that Dr. Leonard Kramer here is an alien species, he's doing that a lot, cross species dating. Sorry. Okay, what I mean is, back in the day,
WTF.
Sorry. Well, you're all right. In this, it is really interesting, all these discoveries that we found in recent years, and just all from these bones just laying on the ground for like hundreds of thousands of years, just laying there for us to discover.
Yeah.
So, wow. I wonder what we discover. I mean, it does seem like every few years we do like the other one, that Dennis
Denisovan.
Yeah, like that was pretty random too. Who would have thought you have another?
So the Denisovans are not well represented in the fossil record. In the bone record, there's very few pieces of it. I think the original one was like this part of the finger bone, that part, and they think it was a little girl, and then a few other bones in I want to say in Laos and Southeast Asia.
Right. I was also going to note that I think I was just reading that the Denisovans also interbred with Neanderthals as well.
There's no question about that. There's some overlap.
So
but also with our species. Okay, so modern humans have this Denisovan introgression, or I'm not exactly sure what you call it. So, but
indeed.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting things. I guess this is not really a field I pay too much attention to, but I'm sure like massive discoveries are clearly being made all the time here.
I think there's a lot of the world that hasn't even been looked at. Like in China, for example, I don't think there's been a lot of work in China and Asia, and it's all Denisovans seem to have contributed to the genes of the people who live in Tibet at high altitude, and has given them somehow, some way, some resistance to the lower oxygen content, and made their offspring. The biggest problem with high altitude is
right,
miscarriage.
Right.
Women will have miscarriages more prevalently.
There's what is it? I just found that, there are humanoid species in China as well, like northern China, large heads. Type out Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, Denisovans are most the first. However, according to research, the number of prehistoric species might be growing.
Okay. Shen, you're reading. You need to slow down and put little gaps between each of the words, because you're starting to sound like one of those Gen Zers.
It's Homo juliensis, named for their large heads. At least this group is. So,
okay.
And
I don't know.
Julu means a huge head in Chinese, apparently. So there's a new species, hominins, in China, just discovered I guess last year or something.
Yeah, I think China is is a great territory for looking for this kind of stuff and studying it.
I find it fascinating that we have all these species of different humanoids all coexisting around the same time. 50,000 years ago.
It is kind of, and it didn't have to be that way. Like when Europeans came across the Atlantic and came to America, they could have found like a separate species. That would have been. It was kind of to make us wonder about what our world would be like if we had if the Neanderthal instead. The Indians, the Native Americans are modern humans. There's nothing to discuss there. But it could have been that the Neanderthals could have gotten across, and so there's all kinds of maybe sci-fi kinds of things.
Okay, so there's a science fiction novel I read which has an alternative universe with Neanderthals, and
of course,
and if somebody from this universe visits that universe, their interactions in that universe, that Neanderthal is like a quantum physicist or something. Forget what, but like
yes, of course he would be. Yes,
or something like that, because he's like falls in love with a human woman in our universe, I guess. And I'm not saying it's a great book, but it's interesting. You should. I need. It's in my bookshelf. I'm not gonna go and grab it, but I'll find it and post it in the chat later. So, I mean,
okay.
I think that could be possible, but who knows? But in our day, this universe, we humanoids, Homo sapiens, are the only ones left as far as we know in this modern day and age. So
I'm pretty sure about that. So anyway, I miss them. I wish that they were still here.
The genes live on.
One thing I did. The final thing I wanted to mention was that something that's mysterious to me is that since we have sequenced the DNA of the Neanderthal, since we understand the genome, why is it that we don't know everything there is about them physically? I mean, it must be that we don't know how to read the genes. I mean, so it seems very primitive, the analysis of the am I being clear? Where did you go? You went to get a snack, right?
I don't know why. To answer your question, and no, I did not. I was trying to find that book and I couldn't find it.
Oh,
it's too bad.
Anyway, that was the thing that I was. That was.
I don't know.
So the only thing I wanted to say was it seems like we really can't say very much about, for example, what did the Denisovans look like, right? Even though we've sequenced their genome from the finger bones and a few other bones, we know all about their genes, and the genes, your chromosomes are the roadmap of what makes you you. How come we can't read that and determine more about what they look like, or like it's still a matter of debate whether Neanderthals had blue eyes and red hair. Some people think that they have a gene that coded for red hair, but I don't. It seems like that should be a dispositive kind of indicator if your genes determine your hair color and your eye color and your skin color. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Do you know much about genetics, Leonard?
I guess I don't.
Okay.
Those are questions that I would like to get answered. So
right. Since I am not qualified at all to answer any of those kinds of questions, but I'm sure I could ask somebody who's more attuned in the biological sciences, and then probably you could too. The book I was gonna briefly state was called Hominids. I don't know if you heard of it.
Hominids.
So
hominids,
this one,
yes, of course I've heard of hominids. People hear me talking about the hominids all the time.
No, the novel, the science fiction novel I was just saying, by Robert J. Sawyer.
Oh.
Neanderthals have developed a radically different civilization on parallel Earth, and Neanderthal physicists.
Oh, I'm going to get that. I'm going to read that tonight.
Accidentally passes from his universe into a Canadian underground research facility. Fortunately, a team of human scientists, including paleoanthropologist Mary Vaughan, promptly identifies and warmly receives Ponter. Solving the language problem and much else is a mini computer called a companion implanted in the brain of every Neanderthal. A computerized guardian spirit, however, doesn't eliminate cross-cultural confusion. Permanent male-female sexuality, rape, and overpopulation are all alien to Ponter. Nor can it help his housemate and fellow scientists back in his world, Adicor hold, when authorities charge Adicor with his murder. So it looks like it's a science fiction thriller with Neanderthals.
Of course.
So
I'm there. I'm going to read that tonight. I can get that on my Kindle.
I mean, it's the first of 3 different series. It's Neanderthal Parallax, #1. Yeah, I've only gotten the first one.
Okay.
So there's also humans,
and
then hybrids. So,
for
anyone
Thanks.
Okay, just throwing in some sci-fi in there. Yep. Yep, Leonard. Thanks for talking so much, as always.
That's what I do.
Expounding the facts of this of the past.
Well, I mean, I asked, so I mean, you can come up with some ideas for shows if you want.
For sure.
I knew the Neanderthal thing was a stretch.
Clearly, at least in science fiction, Neanderthals are able to develop a sophisticated society and no doubt have space travel, I would presume.
I think if the my opinion is if the Neanderthals could bring down mammoths, if they had enough organizational ability to do that, I think that if they lived today, we would find them flying airplanes and doing brain surgery and doing all the intellectual things that modern humans do, because I'm in awe of the ability to do that. So yeah.
I'm quoting Leonard here. If the Neanderthals can bring down mammoths, if they exist today, they would be doing intellectual things too, like flying airplanes, doing brain surgery, going to space, all sorts of things.
Right.
All right. So that's how we related it to space. As far as I can tell. Any case, so with all that said, we have gone sufficiently over time. I'm going to skip the alien stuff for a later episode next time.
Aww.
Sorry. But hey, I leave you guys behind with possibly reading that science fiction novel. Let me know what you think. Leonard's going to read it too. So just go get the Neanderthal Parallax series, or at least.
All right.
All right. Okay, everybody. With all that said, like, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff.
Especially subscribe. Leave comments.
Comments are always welcome.
Tell me what you think.
Sharing it is good. Any kind of comments is welcome. Just if you're going to be critical, though, be nice about it. I mean, be a little or not. Doesn't matter. Don't be nice. Yeah, I'm not nice to Leonard sometimes, so it doesn't matter, right? The audience could be cruel to both of us, or whatever you choose. All right, but most importantly, or you can, feel free to support the show. Go on patreon.com/SG2 on space. And thank you again, Kyle Baker, Sam Welsh, and John Grace for your donations. With all that said, I will do my kindly thing where we say namaste and
shalom and good night.
That's what I was waiting for. See you guys next time.